Now we are going to graph some more quadratic functions. So now we're going to do x squared plus 8x plus 7. So I know that a is positive 1 because it's the coefficient of x squared, b is positive 8 because it's the coefficient of x, and c is the number at the end, or the constant, which is 7. So I already said that because a is positive, it opens up and it has a minimum. The axis of symmetry now. So I'm going to do part C. The axis of symmetry is x is equal to negative b over 2a. If x is negative b over 2a, then x is negative 8 over 2 times 1, which is negative 4. So the axis of symmetry is x equals negative 4. And what I didn't do in the last one, which I usually do, is once I find things, I write them down. So x is negative 4. Part D is the vertex. So if x is negative 4, then I take the equation, I substitute negative 4 in for x, but again, it's negative 4 in parentheses squared plus 8 times negative 4 plus 7. So it's 16 minus 32 plus 7, which is negative 16 plus 7. Sorry, lost my train of thought. So it's negative 16 plus 7, which is negative 9. So I need to make sure I write that as a point, which is negative 4, negative 9. And again, you're going to be able to have your notes available to you for quizzes and tests. And I'm going to be very particular about these two things. The axis of symmetry is a line, x is equal to 4. The vertex is a point, negative 4, negative 9. So then I can just go to my table and put negative 4, negative 9 in there before I forget. Negative 4 is left 4 and down 9, so it's this point here for the vertex. On my list, wrong color. E is my next one. So E is my next one, and I'm going to find the x-intercepts. So my x-intercepts is when I take this equation and set it equal to 0 and solve the equation. So I get negative 7 and x is equal to negative 1. And again, these are 2 points. X is negative 7, but y is 0. X is negative 1, but y is 0. It might seem like a little thing to you, but it's a huge thing to me because these are the zeros. These zeros mean that this is when y is equal to 0. It is the 0 of the function. So it's negative 1, 0, and negative 7, 0. And for these zeros, if one's 3 to the right of the vertex, the other one is 3 to the left of the vertex. So just make sure that of the axis of symmetry. Make sure that the axis of symmetry is in the middle. And then part F, the y-intercept. For the y-intercept, we substitute x is equal to 0, just like for lines. Any equation that we have for the y-intercept, we substitute x is 0. And again, for this one, all of my numbers turn into 0, so we're always going to be at the number at the end. And again, my y-intercept, the x value is equal to 0. So make sure x is equal to 0. So my y-intercept is 0, 7. And then I can reflect it. If it's 4 to the right, my other point is going to be 4 to the left. Now I need to make my t-chart. So to make my t-chart, I start with, I'll add yet another pen. Let's see what color I should add. Maybe a lighter orange. So my t-chart, I'm going to do, since it's negative 4 in the middle, I'm going to go up 1, so to negative 3 and then negative 2, and down 1, negative 5 and negative 6. So for my t-chart, I'm going to substitute the numbers in. So first, I'll start with negative 3. So for x is negative 3. So if x is equal to negative 3, I don't know why my pen doesn't cooperate sometimes. If x is equal to negative 3, we take our equation, so it's negative 3 squared plus 8 times negative 3 plus 7, which is 9 minus 24 plus 7, and we get negative 8. That means when I substitute a negative 5, I'll also get negative 8. I would just make sure that that actually works out. Then I substitute -2 in, and I get out -5. But again, at this point in Algebra 1, we should all be able to do that arithmetic, just making sure we square the negative. So now I'm going to make this parabola. And I should really graph these points. So -6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 1 point. -5, -8 is here. -4, -9 was my vertex. -3, -8 is here. And -2, -5 is here. And again, any point is going to be reflected over the axis of symmetry. So if one point is 2 to the right, one point is 2 to the left. And then here also. So then we're going to graph our parabola by connecting these dots. And it's all done. So the next one, A is -1, B is 6, and C is -5. So I know this parabola opens down and there's going to be a maximum. So for my axis of symmetry, which is the first part, or part C really. Dang it. There switches. So part C is the axis of symmetry, which is x is equal to -b, which is 6, over 2a, which is -1. So it's equal to positive 3. So my axis of symmetry is x equals +3. So I'm going to go to my graph and make it +3. My vertex is next. So part D is my vertex. The vertex is where x is 3. So it's negative x is 3 plus 6 times 3 minus 5. Take note between this negative, it's negative x squared, versus this negative, where it's negative x, and then square it. So make sure you are squaring the -4 in number 2, and you are not squaring the -3. You're just squaring 3. So it's -9 plus 18 minus 5, which is 9 minus 5, which will give me 4. So my vertex is the point 3, 4. And again, be very particular about that. Write it as a point, not as just a number. So then part E, I can find my x-intercepts. So for part E, my x-intercept is when y is 0. Well, when y is 0, the equation is negative x squared plus 6x minus 5 equals 0. Now what I can do is divide everything by -1, which makes it positive x squared minus 6x plus 5 is equal to -0, which is just 0. So we're going to factor this, factors of 5 that add up to -6, x minus 5, and x minus 1. So x is equal to +5 and x is equal to 1. So I'm going to have 2 points where +5 is my x value and then 1 is my x value. And I know 0 is going to be my y value. And again, I can just make sure that those are right because it has to, if one's 2 away from the axis of symmetry, the other one has to be 2 away from the axis of symmetry. And then part F, I can find the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, I substitute x is 0, so at -0 squared plus 6 times 0 minus 5. And some of you might just be saying, you know what, I'm just going to write 0, -5. The y-intercept is always 0, and then that number c that's at the end if you want to take a little shortcut. And I can reflect it. And really, I can stop here and graph my parabola. However, I'm going to fill in my table of values. So I get a positive, trying to erase that. So I get +3 and 4 for my vertex. My vertex is right here in the middle. So I'm going to go up to 4 and then 5 and then down to 2 and then 1. So then for my table, I put it in here. If x is equal to +4, then I have -4 squared plus 6 times 4 minus 5, which is -16 plus 24 minus 5, which is 8 minus 5, which is 3. Then if x is equal to 5, then I have -5 squared plus 6 times 5 minus 5, which is -25 plus 30 minus 5. And again, this should be the part that's easy. And we get 5, 0, which makes sense because my X-intercept is 5, 0. So that's that point there. If this chart goes 3 and then 0, this part here is going to go 3 and then 0. So we can plot these. The first point up top is 1, 0. It's already plotted. Then 2, 3. 3, 4 is the vertex. 4, 3 is here. 5, 0 is already plotted. So I have my problem. The next video will have the next two problems on it.